The following is a Michigan Sesquicentennial Year presentation.
If you were watching Michigan Outdoors exactly 1 year ago tonight, you saw Craig Calderon's what turned out to be state record buck. Never in this state has there been a bigger typical rack taken than in 1986. Is that going to happen again this year? Well, I don't know, but I can tell you one thing. We have all over the state more deer than we've ever had in Michigan. The three regional wildlife biologists are going to explain this map and explain your prospects for the deer season, which are fantastic, so stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors. On the eve of deer season, excitement is running high. Of course, you already have your spot picked out where you're going to be, but how much better will it be than last year? Will it be better than last year? Let's talk to our regional DNR wildlife biologist, Bob Wood. Welcome down from the Upper Peninsula. The hash marks here you've put on here represent what? The highest concentrations?
That's where hunters are going to find the heaviest concentrations of deer in the Upper Peninsula.
Delta, Menominee, Dickinson, even over into Iron County?
Yes.
What about the big bucks?
The big bucks, one end of the UP to the other, will find big bucks. Hunters will find big bucks. But there are some special areas put here on the map: Gould City, northern Marquette County, Ontonagon County. Certainly throughout Iron County, there are good numbers of big bucks, and in the farm country of Menominee has good-sized bucks.
That surprises me.
Corn-fed big bucks.
Corn-fed big ones there. Well, these are the hot spots, but of course we know from our Stroh's Hunting Awards, we're going to have them from one end of the UP to the other. Big, massive racks. Now let's take a look at the northern lower peninsula. Most hunters hunt in the northern lower, by and large. Of course, we're talking about down to the Bay City-Muskegon line. Gary Bushell.
Hi, Fred.
Welcome from the North Country. You always have the hotbed of concentration of deer and of hunters right across this zone here. Is this larger than last year? Is this going to be?
No, basically it's the same thing. I think we have a little bit different distribution than we had last year. Our deer herd is doing best where we have mixed farming and forest lands compared to last year. I think those hunters that will hunt on state and national forest lands will find the herd pretty much comparable to last year.
Oh, but it's the farmland where it's going to be increased.
That's correct.
Your big buck area, Alpena.
That's the big buck area. I think this year there you have a combination of, again, agricultural land, good forest land, good range, and also an opportunity for deer to get to be a little bit older, and that combination will make you some big bucks.
Great. I'm going to be hunting right about there on that edge, and Roger McCarville's going to be right up in that area, too.
Good luck.
Exciting news. Now, the southern part of the state, well, the deer herd has been increasing in the south year after year after year. Last year we had record set. Ed Tucker, you've been commandeering the deer herd down here. You have lots of pockets of big bucks this year.
That's correct. We're going to kill big bucks all over far in the southern part of the state. There's no doubt about it. But these are some special areas where we've actually picked up some big bucks already this year. And we're excited about what's going to happen to 400-some thousand deer down here in southern Michigan.
400,000?
400,000.
This part of the state, of course, that's where our state record came from, Craig Calderon's record last year. See, this area here, the Calhoun, Branch, Hillsdale, Lenawee, the high concentration.
Jackson District.
And, of course, the thumb.
Up in the thumb.
Lots of deer up in the thumb. Well, actually, there's deer from in every county in the state, I imagine, will be taken. It's going to be a banner year. There's no doubt about it. Now let's take a look at some of the statistics. Interesting comparative statistics from last year. If we look at the deer harvest in the Upper Peninsula, Bob, 30,610 was the DNR firearm season estimate last year, or fairly accurate count. What are you looking at this year, up or down?
I'd like to see it up to around 40,000 this year.
40,000, what an increase. 40,000 deer during just the November 15th to the 30th season.
Yes.
That's good news for the UP hunters. What about in the northern lower, Gary?
We anticipate a larger harvest, somewhere in the neighborhood of 125.
Up from 109,000?
Up from 109,000, and this reflects our attempt at trying to harvest deer where they've been causing us problems with agriculture, in orchards and Christmas tree plantations.
Well, now the southern part of the state set a record, an all-time record last year with 65,680 deer. I imagine it's going to go up or stay the same, Ed?
Oh, absolutely, it'll go up. We figure at least 70,000 deer.
Well, that brings a total for firearm deer season only of 235,000. That's up from last year. When you add to it the archery kill and the muzzleloader kill, what are we looking at, 300,000?
certainly a possibility.
That is 1 ton of deer. Some of the reasons behind this harvest, let's look at the fawn crop that we've had this past spring. Of course, the winter was an easy one last winter. In the Upper Peninsula, Bob, how was the fawn crop?
We had a good fawn crop. We had an excellent mild winter last winter, good survival. They came out of the deer yards in excellent shape. We'll have a good fawn crop this year. Hunters will see good numbers of deer.
Well, Gary Bushell, what about the northern lower?
We had an excellent fawn crop. It was a short, mild winter, one of the mildest on record. Excellent carryover from last year's fawns, and again this year the does were able to produce very successfully.
Well, needless to say, Ed Tucker is going to say excellent in the southern part of the state.
Always excellent. Winters are not a limiting factor for us.
Of course, these deer really won't show up in the hunter's harvest. There'll be 6-month-old deer this fall, but if the winter is easy, of course, that bodes well for the following year. But the winter is something we're looking at that takes a high toll on fawns especially. Now, last year we had an easy winter, ranked easy on the meteorological charts. Bob Wood, what did you find up there as far as starvation losses in the woods, in the deer yards during the winter?
We had very minimal losses. We will always lose some deer each winter, whether they're late-born fawns or accidents or those deer caught out away from shelter in the wintertime. But we had very minimal losses this year.
You're talking about how many?
A few thousand.
Few thousand?
A few thousand.
That's sort of a run-of-the-mill normal winter loss?
Well,
in an easy winter?
It was even easier than most residents can remember.
Ah, what about the northern lower, Gary?
We also had a minimum loss over the winter due to starvation. Most of our overwinter losses were due to domestic dogs and highway kill because it was such a mild winter.
I was disappointed. Last winter, I never got to throw my Bronco into four-wheel drive. There was no reason. There was no snow. And I would say in the southern part of the state, it was almost negligible, wasn't it, Ed?
Very easy winter. As I said before, winters are not a problem for our southern Michigan deer.
Now, all this sounds good maybe for the deer and for the hunters, but let's take a look at what happens on the highways. This is already at a terribly distressing proportion of 33,000 deer reported on highway deer kills. And in the Upper Peninsula, Bob, are you looking for this to remain stable?
This past year, it seems to have gone up.
Whoa. 10 to 15%?
It looks as though we will see a year's end total of 10, 15%.
And then the northern lower, Gary?
We're looking at perhaps an increase of 5%. Again, we have a high highway kill. 5% seems to be a good figure. Hopefully our regulations will target in on those deer too that are being hit on the highways.
Ah, the southern Michigan, what are you looking at, Ed?
We're looking at approximately 10%, Fred.
I am asked all the time, can't hunters do something to take the deer that are around the highways? Is this a part of the management strategies with the antlerless permits? To trim those areas?
Absolutely that and the crop damage areas and so forth.
Well, hunter numbers, let's take a look at the number of hunters that are going to be in the woods, at least the percentages. In the Upper Peninsula, you're looking at more of them?
Yes, we'll certainly see more hunters this year than we did last.
About 5%?
At least.
Okay. Gary, in the northern lower, where there's already tons of hunters.
Because of the Sunday opener, we anticipate there will be many hunters coming from the southern part of the Lower Peninsula up into the northern part of the Lower Peninsula to hunt. We'll be up about 10%.
Up about 10%. And in the southern part of the state, where the deer herd is just burgeoning and busting at the seams?
We expect our hunters to be down because of this Sunday hunting closure.
Now, that's just on Sunday they'll be down.
Yes, absolutely on Sunday. Monday and Tuesday we'll pick up.
14 counties are closed. But overall hunter success, you're looking at what? How many percent? Overall hunter success. Last year, it was about 30%. What do you think?
I'd suggest in the Upper Peninsula will be close to that again.
30%?
30%, very comparable to last year.
That's almost 1 in 3 hunters. Now,
Right.
that is, again, we're talking firearm deer season only.
Yes.
It's going to be a great one. You guys have brought great news this year. Now, the winter story may be a different one if we have a hard, difficult winter. But until then, we're going to have some good news, I'm sure, a great big buck night. And we have a story right now. Baraga County, a couple guys in deer camp. Oh, they had a banner year last year. Let's take a look at our trophy book. Here's Craig McConnell from Trufant, Michigan, standing in front of the buck pole at his family deer camp in the Upper Peninsula. Now, this wasn't the entire buck pole. These deer represent the bucks taken the first few days of the season by Craig and his brother. We heard the whole story at our Stroh's Hunting Awards banquet last winter. Storm and Craig, the McConnell brothers, they got a bunch of deer between them here. Come on up here. They wanted to come up and brag it up here together. Craig, you were hunting on opening day, and you got a 10-point. What's the other business you got here?
Well, the 8-point I got the 4th day of the season. The 10-point, I had rattled in a 6-point opening morning, and somebody else shot it out from underneath me. So I started to walk, and I saw a doe, so I rattled again, and the 10-point came running within 30 yards of me.
Holy cow.
So then I shot him. It was a 1.5 mile drag back out to the road, and when I got there, my brother was there, and I showed the buck to him and told him the pressure was on him.
Let's go to the brothers. Storm McConnell. Okay, your brother had got a 10-pointer. The heat was on.
It took me until the 3rd day to finally get a buck, and 8:30 on the 3rd day I shot the 8-point, and I gutted him out, and I came back and sat on my stool, and 5 minutes later the 12-pointer came along.
You guys got your 4 bucks up in Baraga County, up in the UP, where a few years ago it was pretty tough to come by deer.
That's right. We've had pretty good luck in our party. The last 3 years our party's filled out.
You have had pretty good luck in your party. We can see that right here. Congratulations, the McConnell brothers. Craig and Storm had pretty good luck, I'd say. Good luck is an understatement. Here's to Craig and Storm and all the deer hunters who won't get bucks this year. Your turn is coming. Be persistent, and one of these days you'll see your name in our Michigan Outdoors Trophy Book.
The word is that Matthew Gettler's 650-pound black bear he shot near Houghton Lake this season with a pistol might become the #1 bear ever taken in Michigan. And when the skull is measured after the prescribed drying time, it could become the 14th largest ever taken in North America. The DNR and the Attorney General have filed suit against Consumers Power's Ludington pump storage plant. They claim the plant kills far too many fish and uses bottomlands leased from the state in doing so. They'd like the operation shut down. And if you're heading up north on US 27 to deer hunt, stop by the rest area at Clare from 10 till 10 tomorrow and 10 till 8 on Saturday. DNR COs and wildlife folks will answer questions and have maps available. Director Geyer will be there on Saturday from noon till 2. And don't take your spotlight up hunting with you, and don't even take it out of the house for that matter. Shining is illegal all this month, and that's new this year. Successful deer hunter patches are available at all DNR district offices and highway check stations near White Cloud, Alma, and Clio. I asked DNR Wildlife Chief Carl Hosford how important the information they get from the check stations is.
It's extremely important, Bob, in our whole management concept. It's the best source of information on the health of the deer, how the deer are maturing, how they're faring, antler development. It gives us a lot of scientific information for setting regulations, for managing the land to produce more and better deer for the hunters of the state.
For the first time ever, the back tag and the kill tag are the same tag. And deer hunters who have lost or misplaced their back tags are going to be hopping mad, especially when they find out it's going to cost them almost $13 to replace it. Now, the DNR changed the system this year, supposedly to make it easier to enforce last year's law that says it's illegal to be in the deer woods without a valid kill tag. Now, that's fine. But what the department officials forgot is that people who hunt deer were used to the separate back and kill tag system, number one. And number two, hunters lose their back tags by the droves. In fact, they lose them so fast that it was the DNR who asked the legislature to make replacement back tags completely free just 6 years ago. In the meantime, the best advice for your deer back tags is the advice they give for a traveler's check. Don't leave home without it. But unlike a traveler's check, if you do lose it, it'll cost you far more than a phone call to replace it.
Introducing a magnificent limited edition art print. This is called Midnight Vigil. Dave Bowman is the artist. Going to be available on Big Buck Night to people who call in their pledges, and of course the phones we expect will be jammed. But you can get a subscription to the Outdoor Digest, and other premiums, including this print, if you happen to have received a letter in the past week or so from me on behalf of your local PBS station. Please, if you can answer this letter, send in a pledge early ahead of Big Buck Night, you could acquire one of these special PBS edition, limited edition prints.
And also, speaking of letters, we got a letter here in our mailbag from Bob Wada of Gibraltar, who writes and says, suppose you shoot a deer on public land and track it onto posted land. Should you pursue the deer or leave it for dead? What is the attitude of landowners in this situation, and would a magistrate uphold the law in court if the landowner wanted to prosecute? What's your advice?
My advice is always pursue the deer as vigorously and as much as you can to recover it. It's the ethical thing to do, it's the practical thing to do, but you must pursue it on private land by asking the landowner if that's possible. If the landowner says, no way, you can't come on this land, well, I'd suggest you don't take the law into your own hands. Talk to a conservation officer, because they'll have to mediate it. If you trespass and the landowner brings charges against you, you're gonna lose. It's happened a number of times before. So work through the conservation officer, he'll mediate that.
In a word to the landowner, too, the landowner is not legally able to tag that deer either.
Right. Work through the conservation officer. And now, let's see if you folks can answer this question in our outdoor quiz.
If your field-dressed deer weighed 120 pounds, what was its probable live weight? A deer's blood and entrails account for approximately 1/5 of its live weight. Divide the dressed deer weight by 4 and add that quarter to the dressed weight. A 120-pound dressed deer would probably weigh about 150 pounds.
Out on the opener, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're young and able-bodied and fit, or you're a senior citizen, or you're a handicapper, right, like yourself, uses a wheelchair to hunt from. There are many ways that you can be just as effective as anybody else. Like a blind. You know, I always say hunt from a blind. We found something that John Bainbridge, who is a handicapper himself, has a bad leg. He developed a little company he called Game Master, and he's come up with a number of products. Look at this, made out of PVC pipe and some canvas. Put some wooden slats in there, and you have a blind any place you want in the woods.
I got all I need to room to move around in here. He made this bigger for wheelchairs.
He does. He has a larger one than that. That's just accommodated for that. But that's a great idea for hunting from a blind. Another concern that people have who might have bad arms or who hunt from a chair, what about a gun? How do you handle your gun, Raj?
What we found last year was this sling. It's been out for a while, but I found it through you.
Well, it's called a super sling, a rubber sling that stretches like that.
And if you have any kind of limited mobility up in your uppers, you can put this thing up. You don't have to have a lot of strength in your arms.
Because that stretch actually pulls it to your shoulder.
And what I like most about it is traveling in my chair. I can put this down. I got my hands free. Don't worry about ruts or anything. I can.
Gun stays in a safe direction. You know, there's some people who have sent us some things, Raj, who have ingenious ways of keeping warm. A senior, Clarence Vining from Decker, sent us these photos of a blind that he made. The top of it, the dome, is a satellite dish that blew over in his yard and got damaged.
In a storm, and he took it and he built a 6-sided blind that he has a problem with circulation. He can't go out long. So he built it so he could go in there. It's insulated. It has a little furnace in there, a Coleman stove. He can stay warm. He's got view all the way around, all
With
6
those
sides
windows.
with those windows.
Great idea, but this one takes the cake. Tim Binns from Midland is a quadriplegic and he limited mobility in his arms and legs, but he wanted to continue hunting. And he and his family and friends developed this blind on wheels. Right there, it looks almost like a ice fishing shanty with...
It's a 72 Pontiac. They took the back off.
Look at that. Drives it out in the woods, and he has a permit to hunt from a standing vehicle.
Right, he's got the DNR permit.
And he has visibility, as long as he parks in a good spot, right down through some shooting lanes that his buddies can cut for him, look over the open areas and the clearings. Right there, he has some hydraulics in here that control his windows up and
These are the
down.
controls. He's got windows that he took the motors out of the car, put them in here for the windows so he can raise and lower them. Here you can see where he can shoot. Being a quadriplegic...
Well, you can see his finger on the trigger, and he can't hold the gun in the same way. He needs some extra support, so the gun is supported there.
On a table.
On a table, and that track, there's a track around there that can help him move that
Gives him
gun
close
around.
to 180 degrees of shooting area.
That's great. Tim Benz, he really came up with something there. There's a lot of people who might not have that kind of difficulty, but do have difficulty staying warm. I recommend, this is another Game Master invention here, the swivel seat that John Bainbridge came up with. This is a swivel seat that goes on a 5-gallon bucket. I mean, a great
It's an
idea.
old paint bucket.
An old paint bucket, so you sit on that and swing around. Now, the bucket also is what I carry, my day pack, all kinds of things, my fanny pack and all kinds of gear in here. But you know, today, a fellow from down in Jackson contacted me, an old buddy of mine, Frank Hall, who makes sled dog sleds. He came up with what he calls the Hall's swivel buns. He likes to hunt. He likes to use this type of chair to carry in the woods because it's lightweight.
He's got a sling to carry.
He's got a day pack right there underneath, but he says these things wear out and rot, and plus you can't turn around in them very well. So he designed this little swivel buns things, he calls it. You sit on that on this type of stool and very
Gives you
quiet.
full range again.
Swing around. A lot of people wonder what I carry in my fanny pack and my day pack. Well, I carry my fanny pack inside my day pack. It has extra gloves, extra mittens, extra socks, things to keep warm, chapstick, little TP there in a bag, insect repellent. Sometimes you never can tell when you need that. Things for comfort, some food, rope to drag our deer with.
Our big buck.
You bet. We have, by the way, up at our museum at Houghton Lake, it's going to be open all weekend, even on opening day. Now, Raj won't be there, I won't be there, Bob Garner and Kathy Beitler will all be hunting, and we'll show up at Tuck's Buck Pole at about 8 o'clock on Sunday night. But we're going to have a number of these items that you just saw here, including the original art print. That'll be there. So swing on by the museum on your way up north or on your way back. And now let's take a look at some of the events. There's got to be some other events coming up this weekend on our outdoor calendar. All this cheese is venison, ground venison, in a recipe called Mama Bear's Venison Olé. This was sent to us by Margaret Secor of Battle Creek. It came in second in our wild game cooking contest in March.
Oh, and I can see why.
Ooh, and I'll tell you, Kath, when you put this together, I think you even got a few more jalapenos in here than Margaret suggested.
Did it call for a 55-gallon drum of this
No,
stuff?
it really didn't. It's got cream of chicken soup and your jalapenos, sour cream, 2 kinds of cheeses, got cheddar and Monterey Jack, and ground venison. Now this is all pre-ground here.
Now the venison, of course, has, when you fry it up, you want to brown it, and there's no fat.
Completely.
There's
That's
no
right.
fat in it to speak
That's right.
of.
And then you're going to make a sauce out of the cream of chicken soup. It's going to kind of mild out your peppers, or it's supposed to.
Oh, come on. Look at, you dumped the whole can in
Well,
there.
you like hot stuff.
Oh, I like it, but...
Okay, now hopefully the sour cream will mild it out even a little bit more.
Good luck.
Now that'd make a great dip right there if you like hot dip. Okay, now your tortilla shells, you're going to go ahead and put in hot oil. You want them just pliable. You don't want them to be completely crisp.
2-3 seconds on each side.
On each side.
Drain them?
That's right. You want to drain them on paper towels and get them all straightened out. You could take some of the sauce and put it in the bottom of your dish because you don't want your shells to stick to it. Just kind of spread that around. And you're going to go ahead and fill your shell.
Well, these are actually, it's an enchilada.
Like a
is
burrito.
Really,
That's right.
really what it is. I've made chicken enchiladas similar to
Oh,
this.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, you're going to go ahead and fill your shells with the ground venison and cheese and pour the rest of the sauce over the top.
You know what there isn't in this recipe? Onions.
No, you don't need it.
No, you don't need it. Definitely not.
Good nerd.
And cover the rest with cheese and bake it.
There we are. Mama, oh, you can see some of the jalapenos in here, these little green things. They seem to be fairly evenly distributed, don't they, Bob?
Hey, yeah.
See, you
yeah,
thought they were all in
right.
one bite.
they are all in one bite. Hey,
You
I'll
ready
take
for some
another
more?
shot of this. You know, this would be a great recipe to take up to deer camp.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you always got chili and stuff. You eat all the spicy food you don't necessarily eat the rest of the time of year. Great
But you know,
deer camp.
you could cook it with hamburger if you don't have venison. You
Sure.
don't have to
Sure.
put all those jalapenos
No.
in there.
No.
You could add onions if you wanted to.
But they are good.
Oh,
Mighty
definitely.
good. Margaret, you did a great job. Whatever you do, if you can get out and hunt or fish this weekend, I know you're going to love it, but try to get outdoors. It's a great place to be. See you next week. Next week on Michigan Outdoors, we'll have a comprehensive opening day report. Roger McCarville and I will be up around the Alpena area. Bob Garner is going to open up around Houghton Lake, Kathy in the southern Michigan farm country. Now on Sunday night, opening evening, we're going to be at Tuck's Buck Pole in Houghton Lake on M55, 8 p.m., so join us with our cameras. Handle your guns safely, drive carefully during this deer season. We want to see you next week right here on Michigan Outdoors.